Carolina Panthers are the biggest winners of day one of the NFL free agency, and I'm not going to let anyone tell me any different. All right, now, first thing, before I get too deep in the video, I want to say a couple of things. First thing is, y'all keep on subscribing to the page. I'm trying to get to 900 subscribers by the end of March, and only y'all can do that. Right now, I believe we're at like 849. I don't know, bro. Y'all check it out. Y'all help me get to 900 subscribers, so then we get to 1,000, then we get to 10,000, and so forth and so on. But I can only do that if y'all like the video. That way it sends it out, and if y'all subscribe to the channel, and if y'all want to leave a little comment. I mean, I'm not going to complain. I am not going to complain. So yeah, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Even if you want to wait to end the video, subscribe then, and leave a comment, bro. And that's all I got. Let's get back to the video. Now, the first team to talk about is the Las Vegas Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders, they had a very, like, I guess you could say, turbulent all season this past season. I was a guy coming to the season. Listen, I'm not going to lie to you, bro. I'm going to be very honest with you. I was a guy coming to the season. I thought the Raiders were going to be one of those teams. I thought the Raiders had the potential to be like a sleeper team. I wasn't looking at them as like Super Bowl contenders or anything of the sort. God, no. Didn't know who the Super Bowl contenders were. But I definitely looked at the Raiders as a team that could surprise some people. I definitely looked at them as Pete Carroll was taking over. You have Geno Smith. You got Ashton Jeanty. Yeah, there's some question marks on the defense, but you have Max Crosby. Yeah, there's some question marks on the offensive line, but you have Ashton Jeanty. And then the season happened, and I kind of realized very quickly that that was not the case. Like, that just was not at all what was about to happen. And after the season, I think the Raiders finished with the worst record in the NFL. Very, like I said, pretty embarrassing. Very far from what I thought they were going to be. But it allowed them to kind of have a clear vision. When they signed Pete Carroll and they got Geno Smith, sure, the hope, those are moves that you make if you're like, hey, we're going to go to the Super Bowl. We're going to make the playoffs. We're going to go to the Super Bowl because Pete Carroll's getting older. He's getting up there in age. That's why Seattle kind of let him go, because the game seemed like it was kind of passing him at a certain point. So with the game seeming like it's going to pass him, we don't really want him no more. That's why you go out and you get, I'm forgetting bro's name from the Ravens, but you get Ravens DC, you bring him in, and he does the amazing thing he does and leads them to the Super Bowl. But the Raiders, they were nowhere near the Super Bowl conversation. Geno struggled heavily. He ended up having to fire his offensive coordinator maybe midway through the season. The defense looked horrible. Max Crosby wanted out, and now Max Crosby is gone. It was just a lot of things that were happening. So going into the offseason, the Raiders just kind of turned everything around. Geno Smith, they wanted to get rid of him, and they ended up getting rid of him. Max Crosby, they wanted to get rid of him. They ended up getting rid of him as well. They just want to revamp the whole team. They got Clint Kubiak as their head coach. They got new GM. They redid the whole damn thing in Las Vegas. And coming to this offseason, they had the most cap space in the league, $95 million. That's a lot of money. $95 million is a lot of money, and it was clear that they were not in the mindset of thinking like, hey, we're going to win the Super Bowl. Of course, that's the ultimate goal. But right now, they are not going to win no Super Bowl. That's if you think the Raiders are going to win the Super Bowl right now, you're kind of insane. I'm not going to lie to you. But they just want to build around their young talent. They have some young, intriguing prospects on that defense. Obviously, they have the number one draft pick in the NFL. They have Ashton Jeanty. There are some things, although it's not an abundance of things, there are some things to like. So going to the offseason, they just wanted to rebuild. First thing they did was sign the Kobe Dean and Quay Walker, two big name linebackers. Quay Walker was was a big contributor for the Green Bay Packers, right? Like when he was in Green Bay, he wasn't like, the number one linebacker of all time or anything like that. But Quay Walker definitely had it coming that he was going to leave the Packers, not because of how good, or I guess you say bad he was, but just more so, it was some frustrating things going on with him in Green Bay. But regardless of all this, as you can see, 117 and 25 tackles recorded per year, that's kind of a weird number. I'm not going to lie to you. But, listen, he was very productive despite all these things. But once Green Bay traded for Zaire Franklin, I mean, y'all can read all this. But once they traded for Zaire Franklin, it was clear that he was going to be gone. And Las Vegas is a good place for him to go because it's a new scene. This is a team that's looking to rebuilding for a guy who was a first-round pick. Hasn't been in the league too long, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's really a good place for him. And as for Nakobe Dean, shout out to Big Bro. Nakobe Dean is going to join Philadelphia. He's going to join the Raiders as well. He left Philadelphia. Now, over the past couple of years, he had dealt with like some injuries, which kind of derailed his production. You got to think, if he didn't deal with some of those injuries, that he would probably be still in Philadelphia, but he did. The Eagles thought they should let him go. Who knows what's going on over there? But he was doing pretty good when he was on the field in Philadelphia, right? He was pretty good as a pass rusher, but he just did not play a lot. And he's getting paid some nice money. Hopefully over this offseason, he's really able to rehab. If he can rehab and get right, then I think the Las Vegas Raiders will be okay. I think they'll be okay. But that's just defense side of the ball. They also signed Eric Stokes, so I guess they were like making the Georgia Raiders, that sounds kind of lame, my fault. But they got some wide receivers than Jalen Naylor. They beefed up the D-line with Kwity Paye. Cornerback, they got some key pieces on defense, which, as I alluded to earlier, they were struggling. Now, offensively, here's kind of where I want to focus, right? As you can see right here, they signed Tyler Linderbaum. They signed Tyler Linderbaum, who really had been one of the more productive centers in the entire NFL over the past couple of seasons. He clearly was a guy that he was a big contributor to, he was a big contributor to the Ravens. I don't really know what's going on today, but he was a big contributor when he was playing for the Ravens. He was I'm not going to say like a top center in the league, but definitely one of the better centers in the league. And making him like the highest paid interior offensive lineman at 27 M's per year. Goodness gracious, if they still giving out contracts like that, I still got it. But giving him one of those big contracts is definitely something that is well deserved. And you're going to need it because now you have Brock Bowers, you have Clint Kubiak, who we just saw what he was able to cook up with Seattle. You have Brock Bowers, Ashton Jeanty, Clint Kubiak to cook everything up. And you're going to draft Fernando Mendoza with the number 1 overall pick. I think that's kind of obvious at that point. You need a center. You need a quarterback for your offensive line, and who is available on the market to get it than Tyler Linderbaum. I think honestly, some people are going to talk about overspending, but listen, they had $97.5 million in cap space. You have Ashton Jeanty on your team. You have Brock Bowers, two of arguably, at one point coming out of college, people looked at them, I'm not saying they are, but people were looking at these people as generational talents. So naturally, you need to build around them. You need to maximize their skill sets, and you're going to bring in Fernando Mendoza, who, don't get me wrong, is nowhere near a generational talent. He's not. Listen, Fernando Mendoza is not a generational talent, but boy, if you give him Brock Bowers and you give him Ashton Jeanty, he's going to be pretty good. I think he's going to be pretty good, and I think this kind of allows us to look at the Raiders a bit differently. I don't know what to expect. Maybe when we get closer to the season, I'll start to kind of give you guys some of my expectations. It's also very dependent upon the draft, how the rest of the offseason goes, because a lot can happen between now and August and September. So we just have to see how that whole thing goes. But I will say, so far, the Raiders, people are going to say you overpaid. I think y'all did pretty good. I like what y'all have going on over there. And we just have to wait and see what happens next, right? Now, you knew this was coming. With the Carolina Panthers, guys. Panthers Nation, rise up. As a matter of fact, y'all give me a second. Panthers fans, rise. Hey, keep pounding, baby. Keep pounding. If you were in the live in our wild card round, you would have seen this blanket, of course. But I'm going to keep this on, actually. But the Carolina Panthers, after this season, I need to emphasize this, right? Because I don't think a lot of people truly realize why this signing and the other signing I'm going to get into is so important. Carolina Panthers, this season, a lot of people thought we were going to be horrible. I said we were going to win the division. I knew what we were dealing with. I wasn't saying we were going to the Super Bowl. I was not saying we were going to be some God-fearing team who every team should respect. But no, I definitely looked at this roster, and I said we can win the division and make the playoffs. And lo and behold, we won the division and made the playoffs. And we did all this despite a lot of the holes on this team. Guys, our defense was one of the worst defenses in the entire in the entire league. We had no linebackers. we had no linebackers, bro. Our linebackers were freaking horrible. Definitely the worst position group. Like, our defensive line was not like all godly, but we have Derek Brown, who is all worldly himself. We had Nick Scourton, who played pretty well. We drafted Princely, who I don't want to pronounce his last name wrong, so I'm not going to say it. But we had like some good pieces on the defensive line. We signed Turk, who obviously didn't do shit for us this year. But regardless, we had some things on the defensive line. But once you got to that second level, oh boy, it was boy. This is like our linebacker core is one of them linebacker cores where if a team is struggling and they finally are able to be good, they're gonna be like, man, we had to deal with such and such. I'm actually blanking on the names of these linebackers right now. I don't know what's going on with my mind, but we had to really deal with such and such a linebacker. That's what we were dealing with. And then we get to the third level, not as bad as the second level. Mike Jackson balled his ass off this season. We still had J.C. Horn, who he had some moments this season as well. But regardless, we have Trevor Maureen, we have Lathan Ransom. We had some guys who were able to show up on that third level. I think we could use some improvement there. Yes, I would like for us to get a true safety back there to be back there in Rome. I think we need somebody who can be back there in Rome because Lathan Ransom doesn't play like that, and neither does Maureen. So, and Nick Scott, if I have to see Nick Scott on the field for my team in any type of high pressure moment, I am actually going to flip the fuck out. Dead serious. But for us to be able to look at this and Dan Morgan to look at this and identify that, hey, we need to improve this and give us Devin Lloyd. Devin Lloyd is a guy who was one of the most sought after linebackers in the entire NFL. Like, he was an all-pro linebacker not too long ago, if I'm not mistaken, a guy that a lot of teams wanted, and we got him 3 years, $45 million with $25 million guaranteed. This is an amazing deal. He immediately comes in, is not only our best linebacker, one of our best players on the defensive side of the ball, and he helps a position in need where, guys, I'm telling you, if we even had one competent linebacker out there this season, guys, I already know some people think I'm delusional come to this whole NFL thing. Guys, I would have up here saying we're going to beat the Rams. I damn near would say we went to the conference championship, bro, because I honestly do think, like, for our linebacker core to be that fucking bad, it put E.J. Avero in some very, I'll say, peculiar situations, right? Where, now don't get me wrong, I'm not the biggest E.J. fan. I would have liked to see us go after another defensive coordinator this offseason, but regardless, he got extended, blah, 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 blah. But one thing I have to give E.J. is he did the best with what he had, which was not a lot. And having a guy like Devin Lloyd come in and bringing in our other signing who I'm going to talk about next, I think this could really help beef up our defense because we really need it. We really need it. Now, I'm telling you, this is our biggest defensive hole. It was not close in my opinion. I really love what Devin Lloyd will be able to bring to the Carolina Panthers, and I think everybody should rejoice. If you're a Carolina Panthers fan, you should celebrate. You should have went out. You should have took a shot. You should have did something to celebrate this phenomenal signing. Dan Morgan is absolutely cooking, and honestly, this is just something we need, bro. When we had Scott Fitterer, it was just clear that a lot of that he was not able to recognize what this team needed. This team had holes. He just was not able to properly fill them. This dude's been a draft pick on a long snapper, bro. Like, I don't know what in the world he was doing, but I think we've grown from that, and I really love the fact that we were able to sign Devin Lloyd. And then we go to our other signing, the big signing, Jalen Phillips. It says linebacker, but he plays as more of an edge to a big deal. 4 years, $120 million, $30 million a year. A lot of people, I'm not going to lie to you, bro. You see a guy like Jalen Phillips get $30 million a year. You're like, God damn, that's a lot of money. Because it is a lot of money. 4 years, $120 million. And man, if a team offered me, if any company offered me 4 years, $120 million, brother, I would be through the freaking roof. I would be jumping from the rooftops. So Jalen Phillips, obviously that number is scary when you have to give it to somebody, but I really think he's worth the investment. When the Dolphins were looking to trade him and they were on this like little fire sale and they traded him to Eagles, the Eagles wanted him for a reason. He was actually pretty productive when he was on the Eagles. So for him to go into free agency and the Eagles not want to re-sign him, well, guys, guess who needs a freaking edge? Guess whose two best edges were freaking rookies this year? Shout out Nick Gordon. I think he played good. Princely, you do need some more work, bud. You do need some more work. But regardless, I honestly do think that Jalen Phillips is going to be really, really good for us, bro. I really do. He's one of those guys who just can be an absolute force off the edge. And we know in like the modern day, you need a force off the edge. You need a dominant edge rusher to win championships. The Seattle Seahawks had that. The Chiefs, they didn't. Did they have a dominant edge rusher? They had Chris Jones, and they had a nice defensive scheme. Now you have Jalen Phillips. You have Derrick Brown. Hopefully we can find somebody else at DT to like pair with Derrick Brown because right now it's Buttigieg. picks, then I think it will be much better off. I honestly do think it will be much better off. But man, I'm not going to lie to you. This Jalen Phillips signing and the way I believe he could fit into the defense with EJ, it's going to be it's going to be very nice. EJ, I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. All eyes are on you now. Do I think there's some more moves we can make? Yes, but I believe like with the moves that we have made, if you were able to take the worst defense in the league to be what it was this year, which I think was like around average, anywhere from like in that 15 to 20 mark, maybe a little bit higher, I think you can make this into a top 10 defense with what you have now. You have legitimate, I would say A players at every single level with JC, Mike Jackson, Devin Lloyd, and Jalen Phillips. Hopefully we can get another linebacker. Hopefully we can get somebody, because if Turk Warden is going to give us absolutely nothing, we can get another solid defensive lineman, especially with us releasing Ashawn, I think it was earlier today. Hopefully we can replace those and fill those holes, but goodness gracious, I'm ecstatic. In the draft, what we need to do is probably sign a center or something draft a center, because K. Mays is gone, but the Green Bay Packers did just release their center, so I don't know. It's a lot of stuff that can happen, a lot of stuff that needs to be moving. But, guys, I think we're the best team in the NFC South. And I know it's not saying much, especially after the Falcons just did this dumbass shit. After the Falcons just signed Tua Tagovailoa to, I think it was like 1 year. It was a minimum deal. But regardless, he's going to be competing for that quarterback position in Atlanta. It's really just not looking good for Atlanta right now. Like, you have Tua, you have Michael Penix, two quarterbacks who I would honestly say are mediocre at this point. Like, if I'm being honest, guys, Tua and Michael Penix are not going to be able to bring you whatever the fuck you want, right? Now, they made some other moves. They signed Jahan Dotson. They made some other, moves, but I don't think they really filled any key glaring holes. I mean, it's kind of hard to replace quarterback with this free agency class and with this draft class, but I don't think signing Tua Tagovailoa is the way to do it. But hey, I am not a Falcon. I am not a Falcons fan. I'm a Carolina Panthers fan, so I'm actually really freaking happy. Some other notable moves that I did want to talk about is, of course, the Chiefs. I think they made a big move, getting Pat Mahomes, a legit playmaker in the backfield, with Kenneth Walker, Super Bowl champ, Super Bowl MVP. Something that the Chiefs desperately needed was a playmaker. They just have not had a dynamic playmaker since Tyreek Hill left, since Travis Kelce has begun to age, and I think that showed this season. With as great as Pat Mahomes is, that offense just really was not able to do much, honestly. And then when Pat Mahomes went down, it was grits for the Chiefs at that point. Nobody really gave a fuck about the Chiefs. But now you have Kenneth Walker. God damn, why am I struggling with that? Now you have him. I think the Chiefs, this is a big move. And I think the Dolphins getting their QB1 to Malik Willis. He follows their offensive coordinator over. I think we all saw this coming from like a mile. Not the offensive coordinator. Their executive over. I think we all saw this move coming, kind of. Now, $45 million guaranteed. God damn, I didn't expect him to get all of that money. But I'm going to be real. He was balling out. You know, you got some highlights right here. He made some very key plays, whether that was Matt LaFleur or maybe that was, Malik Willis actually being good in developing. Who knows? But regardless, the Dolphins have their new quarterback one. And, yeah, I mean, those are really the most notable moves from day one. I made the video on Max Crosby. I made a video about the trade between the Raiders and the Ravens, so y'all can go check that out. But, I mean, that's all I got, bro. Let's see what the rest of free agency has in store for us. But